Dear scholars, we have been learning a lesson, Great Scientist. Through the previous video, you came to know about some of the names of great scientists, that is Michael Faraday, Humphrey Davy, Thomas Edison. You also came to know about the hardships faced by Michael Faraday as a child, how his education was stopped, and how he started working as a bookbinder, where he was spending his day in binding the books, and in night he was reading all the books he came across. There he, he developed habit of reading, and he once he came across the book based on electricity, and it motivated him. Later he got chance to attend the lecture on the topic mysterious force of electric fluid, which was given by Humphrey Davy, one of the famous scientists of that time. Let us see what happened in the further part of the story. Let us begin the paragraph with Destiny had strange plan in store for him. Let's start. Destiny had strange plan in store for him. For whom? That is for Michael Faraday. A few years later, a chemical explosion happened inside Davy's lab, and he was temporarily blinded. Humphrey Davy was temporarily blinded. He now needed an assistant with an excellent memory to help him. He was reminded of Faraday and decided to hire him as his secretary. So at that time, Humphrey Davy decided to appoint Faraday as his secretary. What happened further? Let us see. Davy never believed Faraday could do anything in field of science going by his social status and education. We came to know about his education, which was stopped by force, and he had no social status as he was born in poor family and dirty London suburb. Let us see the further part. He therefore dismissed Faraday's aspiration and advised him to stick to bookbinding. So Humphrey Davy was not motivating him, just distracting him by telling about his social status and education. But Faraday was relentless, relentless, persistent, non-stop. He worked day and night and learnt as much as he could about Davy's experiment. Soon, Faraday became indispensable to Davy. Indispensable means necessary, important. So his role became important for Davy, and he was promoted to his lab assistant. So at first he was secretary of Humphrey Davy, and later he became assistant, lab assistant of Humphrey Davy. This was his first step towards a scientific career, though much of his job now was cleaning labs. At least he got to see some of Davy's leading experiments. Next paragraph. Even then, Davy did not have much hope for Faraday. Then Faraday got another chance to prove himself. One day, Davy tried to recreate a famous electromagnetism experiment with fellow chemist William Wollaston, exploring why, when an electric current is applied to a wire, it causes that wire to behave like a magnet. So what is electromagnetism? So it is when electric current is applied to a wire, it causes that wire to behave like a magnet. It is called as electromagnetism. So it was the work or experiment taken by uh, Michael Faraday. What happened further? Obviously, the forces were connected, but nobody had figured out how to make it happen continuously. Davy believed that if he could find out why it happened and controlled it, there could be many practical applications of the force. So it was one of the important experiments for Davy, but he was unable to figure it out and was frustrated. He was angry, he was nervous that he was unable to figure it out. He then teased Faraday, asking him to try his hand at it after he was done cleaning the job. Let us see the next paragraph. What happened further? Within a few days, Faraday solved the problem. In fact, he went further, and the result was the first induction motor, which converted electric current into continuous mechanical motion. So it was the first discovery of Michael Faraday that he invented induction motor. What is induction motor? It is the motor or machine which convert electric current into continuous mechanical motion. So what is the use of that induction motor, or what type of machines have induction motor? Let us see through the next paragraph. The induction motor spurred a revolution. Fans, air conditioning, saving machines, photographs, power tools, cars, and even trains and aeroplane engines grew out of this simple device, which was born out of mockery directed at Faraday. Mockery, failure. So it was the failure of Humphrey Davy. It was given by him, or it was offered to Michael Faraday by teasing. Faraday didn't got angry or nervous. He just worked on it and invented for induction motor, and based on it many of the machines came out or spurred the revolution in the in the various types of machineries. So it was the great achievement of Michael Faraday. What is further? Here is the photograph of Michael Faraday. Faraday became a celebrity scientist overnight. So see, a child who had stopped his education by the force of others, who didn't get chance to learn, who was working as a bookbinder, who had no social status, became the celebrity scientist overnight when he discovered induction motor. Nobody now cared about his social status or education. This young man had just created a revolution. One would think, as a teacher, Davy was happy at his pupil's achievement. Pupil, student. So here Michael Faraday is called as pupil or student of Humphrey Davy. So Humphrey Davy was showing his happiness, telling about his student, but in reality he was jealous. Why was he jealous? Because he himself was working on it. He himself wanted to achieve this glory, but he couldn't. So he was jealous. People started telling Davy that of all his discoveries, the best was Faraday himself. Actually, Davy had discovered many of the things, but people were giving more importance to Faraday as one of the new creation or discovery of Davy. This made him even more jealous. An angry Davy gave Faraday an impossible task to keep him out of his way. So it was jealousy of Davy. He was thinking that Faraday would achieve more and more. So to divert him, he was given an impossible task. What was that? Let us see. He handed him a piece of Bavarian glass. Davy handed Michael Faraday a piece of Bavarian glass which was used in the lenses of telescope. What was that glass? The glass which is used in telescope and microscopes, and asked him to reverse engineer it. Bavarian glass was manufactured by a secret, complicated process, and Davy knew that with the equipment available in the lab, Faraday would never be able to accomplish the task. This piece of glass became a significant thing in his life. So, as the work given by his teacher, Michael Faraday was working on it, as there were not enough equipment in the lab. He was just working and working on it. So what happened? That piece of Bavarian glass became significant thing in his life, that is Michael Faraday's life. So how it was, let us see. Faraday had a never give up attitude, it is important, and he respected Davy. So he accepted the assignment. What was the assignment? That is of Bavarian glass to reverse engineer it. Despite knowing that it would be very difficult, he toiled for 4 years. Toiled, worked hard. So Michael Faraday worked hard for 4 years with no help from Davy, and as expected failed. So whatever available in the lab, it was not sufficient for that experiment. So as expected by Davy, Faraday failed. He couldn't achieve the success in that experiment. Faraday never learned the secret, and this remained his first failure as a scientist. So reverse engineering of that Bavarian glass was the failure of Michael Faraday, and it was the first failure of Michael Faraday. He couldn't know the secret of reverse engineering it. To remind himself of this difficult time, he kept a single glass brick on his shelf as a souvenir. Souvenir, remembrance. This would inspire him during difficult times. So it was kept as a remembrance whenever Michael Faraday used to suffer difficult times. He used to see that piece of glass or a single glass brick which used to give him motivation and inspiration to fight with that difficult times. So this is all about today's video. Remaining part of the story we will see through the next video.